I think success is subjective.
Nathan Blumberg is the founder of Creative Juice Agency, which has worked with some of the top brands and names in sports.
Success can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and it does mean a lot of different things for other individuals. But for me, personally, um, success is
So let's start from the beginning. Can you start and can you tell us the story of your first camera and how that came to be?
yeah. I would say the first camera that I picked up was my mom's camera. She kind of had a hobby of photography just for fun. When me and my little sister were growing up, she'd take the camera around on family vacations and whatnot. So that was the first camera I picked up, and it was for, I believe, just me and my friends were hanging out. One of my other friends had kind of gotten into photography in high school, and we had a kind of a big group of friends, and so he was kind of taking photos, and so I kind of wanted to be the guy who took videos of our group, just to like, I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool, him taking photos and everything he caught and captured of all of us hanging out. So went around the house looking for mom's old camera that she had, and it was an old Nikon. I don't even remember what year it was or what model it was, but it was an old Nikon. But it had a record button, so that's all I cared about. And so yeah, that was the first camera that I picked up and started using, and that was, gosh, I think 2015 or 2016. I was a sophomore in high school, and then my first camera that ever kind of like belonged to me. My parents were divorced, and so one Christmas, I believe it was my junior year of high school, my mom and dad split a camera. So my mom bought, I think, the camera lens, and then my dad
Hmm.
bought the camera body, and it was a Panasonic GH3, which at the time was like a little fun hybrid camera. Shot pretty good video, pretty good photo, and then that's kind of like when my hobby started to really pick up some traction. I'm like, I really loved it. Kind of turned into a passion. So
Yeah, I've seen that you obviously do both photography and videography, but you
mhm.
have a clear emphasis on the video side. Was
Mhm.
there a moment through that whole story that you were telling that you're like, okay, video is the option that I want to go with?
Mhm. It's funny because like, obviously I do it as a profession now, full time job, but I I didn't like pick videography over photography when I was younger because I thought it was like better or I was gonna make money doing it. I really just did videography because one of my good friends, Joey, he was the guy in the friend group that was doing photos, and I didn't want to just like, we're in the same friend group, so I didn't want to just like pick up a camera and start taking photos, and like that was kind of his thing. So I just chose video, and I ended up really loving it. Just like, I still love taking photos in sports and whatnot, and I have some of my photos hang up on my wall. But for me, ever since I started taking videos, even of just like our summer vacations or like our friend group, little summer recaps that we have together, I just feel like I personally relate to and kind of get some emotion out of making a video, like just seeing it come to life. Like there's pure magic about something about photos and still images, but for me, the magic was video. So it wasn't, because I could make money with video or I saw the future of Instagram and TikTok going towards video. It was just purely my buddy kind of was the photographer, so I just kind of wanted to be the videographer, and I ended up loving it. So,
It's interesting that you say that because one of the big things, I consider myself a journalist, but as a part of that, I would say that my job is to be a storyteller. And I
mhm.
would say that it's the exact same thing in videography. You're telling a story as you create, as you promote different elements of your video. And I'm curious, at a young age, before you even picked up that camera, was there a moment that you kind of sat back and you're like, okay, I feel like storytelling is something that I'm passionate about, or even developing and finding those patterns throughout stories that you had seen throughout your childhood?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like storytelling is something that I honestly lack, in terms of skill set. I guess it's not like a natural skill set for me. I feel like I have a pretty good eye when it comes to the creative field, like photo, video, audio. Like I feel like I think I was just gifted with a better eye than having to kind of learn how to have a creative eye. And so that kind of got me looking into the creative field in early years of high school. Um, as far as I wasn't really looking anything from a storytelling aspect, when I was kind of dabbling in the creative field at a young age. But um, the one thing that got me going was Vine. And that
Mm.
was, I think that came out when I was like, I can't even remember, probably like seventh, eighth grade, maybe freshman year of high school. I can't really remember. It was so like short lived. But what really got me going was Vine and these 6 second sports edits that would pop up on Vine. Like just some super dramatic songs, some color changing, and, a big hit. Or Odell's one handed catch was floating around at that time on Vine. Those crazy shots paired with the audio and the color grading, whatever, that's like what made me feel some type of way. So obviously, like, there's not really much storytelling on 6 seconds worth of Vine. So
Yeah.
yeah, long story short, yeah, storytelling is still something I'm working on today. I was more brought into the creative field from kind of other aspects of how those videos kind of made me feel.
Right. And it's something that's so important in today's day and age. You talked about the 6 seconds. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the average attention span for a college student because of social media. You have a heavy emphasis on social media. You have to, right? I mean, in
Mhm.
this day and age, in a creative field, you
Yeah.
have to have an emphasis on social media.
Mhm.
So, what do you do specifically
Mhm.
for that attention span to grab the attention
Mhm.
of your viewer? I mean, you got 6 seconds to hook them in and then lure them in. So what does that process look like for you as you look at the demographic that you're trying to reach?
Yeah, I think for me personally, there's different ways to go about it in terms of kind of grabbing somebody's attention in the first 3 seconds. Like, if it's an Instagram reel, and it's like informative or educational or something around those lines, then you got to have a pretty dang good hook, and that gets them in that first line, and then you'll retain them. But for me, I'm kind of still dabbling in my personal brand. I'm trying to figure out, what pillars to really hit. Do I need to have part of my Instagram that is educational, talking in front of the camera, or, can I strictly just do what I want in terms of showing off cool shots and some cool behind the scenes stuff? So for me, in a perfect world, I would love to stay behind the camera and not have to like spit these hooks and gimmicks to try to get people to stay and watch my video. I would like for people to just stay and watch my video because I start off with the most epic shot that you can find on Instagram. So that's the route that I want to take. But for that to happen, instead of me talking in front of the camera and saying a really clever, cheesy line that gets people to watch the whole video, I have to wait or go make these perfect shots to get people to stay. I can rip off 100 different lines in an hour and crank up 100 different reels. But for me to get a shot of Baker Mayfield or Max Clark or whoever these guys are, like that takes time, effort, the right moment to happen, also paired with the perfect shot. Like it's just kind of harder the way I want to go about it, because I don't really want to hook people with hooks and that kind of way. But
So
that's
you
just
just
personal preference.
no, that's great. So you just mentioned kind of where you're at now with some of the perspectives of social media. Can you start? Can you start? You mentioned how high school kind of went and how you started to develop with filming with your friends. What
Mhm.
does post high school look with you? I mean, look like with you? Can you kind of show us that story and then how opportunities, how things started to come by? I know networking is huge for you, as it should be for all. But I'm just curious, what does that process look like?
Yeah. So long story short, after high school, videography creative field was not in the works or the plan at all. I had a Division II scholarship to play tennis in Arkansas. Actually ended up getting denied from the NCAA because I just didn't try in high school. So I wasn't eligible to play my freshman year of college. And so I either had to sit a year at the NCAA school or I had to transfer to a JUCO or NAIA school because they don't have the same rules for academics. So ended up transferring. This was July of my post graduation. So I had 2 weeks to find a school that would take me, and hopefully that had an open roster spot. One of my best friends, still to this day, he was playing baseball at a JUCO in South Georgia. I looked up their program. They were like 3 hours from my hometown, and I think they had just finished in the top 10 in the country for JUCO. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go there, get my grades up, and then transfer out. So, anyways, long story short, get to JUCO. I was doing vlogs and stuff for fun, taking photos for fun, but obviously trying to be a student athlete kind of took up a lot of my time. I focused a lot harder on the athlete side of the things than student, and so I ended up actually failing probably half my classes that fall, that first semester. Um, and so I was ineligible for junior college, which is like, if you're ineligible for a junior college, like, that's really bad. So I ended up being ineligible to play that second semester. So I was sidelined. I couldn't practice with the team. I couldn't travel, anything. So that was very tough. My dad ended up passing away almost probably a week later after I found out I was ineligible. And so that was another heavy hitter of a time. Spent the rest of that semester trying to get my grades up, then went home that fall, or went home that summer. Finished up that freshman year of college. Thought I was going to go back, finish my, eligibility at this JUCO, and then transfer out to a D1, D2. Really didn't know what I was going to do. I, was kind of going for business just to try to get a degree in something. So all that happens. Was still doing videography as a hobby. Obviously grieving with the passing of my dad. And that summer, after my freshman year, I started traveling the country, or not the country, the world. I went to Guatemala with a bunch of my guy friends from high school. We were all just kind of young, hungry, and wanting to travel and see the world. And then my roommate in college, my teammate, is from Spain, and we housed him during the school year because he couldn't obviously fly back a ton to Spain for whatever it was, birthdays, holidays, all that stuff. So we would house him, and as a gift and just kind of a good friend, he invited me and that baseball player to go to Spain for about 2 weeks. So traveled there as well that summer. Took my camera, made some sick travel vlogs, all that stuff. Like I said, the creative field was not in the works in terms of professional career. And so after all that ends, I end up dropping out of college completely. I wanted to go back to school, finish my grades, finish my classes, finish my eligibility. And my mom saw some of the work I had done, not even work, some of the fun projects I had done with Guatemala and Spain, some local stuff I did. My mom's a realtor, so I did some house shoots for her, just to kind of like make some side cash. And so she saw that, and she told me, she was like, hey, I don't want you to go back to school. I think that you're going to do better in this passion that you're pursuing. So if you want to go back to that junior college, you can pay for it yourself, but I'm not going to help you. And I was like, dang, like, this is so backwards. Like, I thought you'd want me to go to school, get my degree, whatever. So ended up not going. And that's when I just kind of found that this was a real profession. I didn't know, this was 2019. This was like winter of 2019. I didn't know that you could make a living doing freelance work with a mirrorless camera. I know there were broadcast jobs and journalism and all these different things, the more professional route in sports. But with a Sony camera or whatever, I didn't know you could make a living. And so that's when I just started the whole process, really. That, I feel like January of 2020 is when I put my head down and I found Gary Vee. I found some other guys in the industry. But yeah, I found Gary Vee and listened to one of his podcasts. And this is where it all started, pretty much. But it was a podcast about DMing people, as many people as you could find, networking with people. The worst they can say is no, or not even respond to you. Like, it's not like they're gonna hurt you or like hurt your feelings. You don't even know them. Like, the worst they can say is no. And the best thing that can happen is you get the opportunity of a lifetime. So the trade-off there is insane. And so that whole college season of my life led up to a bunch of stuff happening throughout that only year I did. And then leading to that first podcast I listened to of Gary Vee. And then that just kickstarted this whole career that I have now.
Hmm. I want to go back to the part where you said that specific quote from that Gary Vee podcast, because
Mhm.
that's not where I took it directly, because that's a general, I mean, a lot of people say that, but I know that's specifically how you heard about it. But
Mhm.
that phrase has defined a lot of what I've done throughout my career. And I
Mhm.
know it's the same for a lot of different people.
Mhm.
And I'm curious. For first, is there a crazy story that is related to that? Because the reason I ask is because the reason you're here right now is because that's my mentality. Because I sent you a message, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's what's the worst that they can say? I had a lot of no's for a
Yeah.
lot of different things that I've done throughout my career, but I've also had a few yeses that have changed everything.
Yeah.
So, how have you seen that specific phrase play
Mhm.
out in your life? And is there a specific moment that you were like, wow, I didn't actually think that was going to work?
Yeah. I mean, I would say two that kind of come off the bat for me is I actually got a lot of yeses. I say I got a lot of yeses. I got like five yeses out of hundreds, but like those five yeses were a lot for a newbie 19-year-old kid who just picked up a camera. Like those yeses were some pretty big yeses for me. It was still free work and everything, but like I got to film this kid named Alex Fudge. He's a player for the Dallas Mavericks right now. I got to film uh, Carter Bradley. He's a backup for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. I got to film uh, quite a few other, you know, talented athletes. And that was all just from the DM. That was like right after I'd heard that podcast from Gary Vee, and I just started DMing people. And I feel like I got, those five or six yeses pretty early, like almost like too early for me to have said yes to, because I felt like my mindset was there, but my work wasn't. Like I was kind of scared I was going to butcher these jobs that I was getting, right? And so that started happening when I kind of took that work ethic from that Gary Vee podcast. But I want to say the first big one that really hit me, it was in the same span of me getting those other gigs with those other athletes, probably the same week or month, actually, was I landed my first full time job, not intentionally at all. Is this quarterback trainer? He's swapped over to a new company now, still training quarterbacks under Cortex, I believe, in Jacksonville, Florida. But I reached out to this quarterback trainer in Jacksonville. All I wanted to do, I'm a huge Georgia Bulldogs fan. All I wanted to do was make him a free video for, his name's Carson Beck. He's at Miami now. He was obviously a Georgia commit, Georgia player. Um, he was training with this quarterback trainer. And I was like, hey, I'll make you a free video. I'd love to film Carson. I want nothing in return. I'm just young. I'm trying to grow, get my portfolio going. So I'd really love to use this piece of my portfolio if you would allow me the access. And then obviously you would get the footage, you'd get the edit, do whatever you want for free. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Just like let me in the building, basically. And he was like, hey, sounds cool, but like meet me here in an hour. I'd love to talk to you about something else. I was like, okay. So it was an hour away. I drive to him, and he was like, hey, like I get tons of messages weekly, monthly about people wanting to come film and take photos in my facility, and I tell him no. He was like, but honestly, God kind of nudged me for some reason to talk to you. He was like, I don't know what for, but let's have a conversation, see what happens. And I was like, this is absolutely crazy, like what God is doing right now. And so we had the conversation, and he was like, okay, like come next week, we'll see if it's a good fit. But like, I want you to run my socials, create graphics, photos, videos, the whole nine. And that was from a DM. I worked with him for a full year. And then that obviously led to me moving to Tampa, getting the gigs in MLB, NFL, NHL. All of that stemmed from DMs, networking, and then also that one yes that the quarterback trainer gave me. So that was the biggest opportunity of my life. that changed the whole course of where I'm at today. I don't know if I would have gotten to Tampa with these gigs if I hadn't kind of grinded that, 1 year I did with the quarterback trainer, and all that stemmed from a DM. And obviously the doors that got open, but you know, just crazy.
So if there's somebody out there, regardless of their industry or their
Yeah.
career path, that is trying to figure out how they do that, how they go provide that free value that you talked about and send that cold email or that direct message that is to somebody that could potentially help them with the assumption that they might say no.
Hmm.
What are the different things that you can do to try to make your case a little bit more
Hmm.
attractive in terms of like, obviously you should be kind and you should look for these certain things. I think the free value is a big thing. When
Hmm.
you looked at what you were doing, what made your message to them? What were the different elements of your message that
Yeah.
made it more effective?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of different of how I approach things now, obviously, because it's almost like a different stature of people that I'm networking with and everything now. Like I'm not networking with the 16-year-old kid, or I'm not DMing, you know, I'm not in that realm. I'm kind of in a different realm, but like when I was reaching out to whoever, the quarterback trainer, the high school commits, like these aren't guys making, besides the quarterback trainer, these high school athletes, these commits, college commits. There was no NIL at the time. Those guys aren't making like a ton of money. They don't have professional photographers or videographers at their disposal. And all of that was starting to come up. So it's like, okay, if I know that I can provide them better photos and videos than what they're showing on their page, and that's already a value win. And they get it for free. That's a no-brainer. So you just have to find like the right situation to give your value pitch, because I can go up to Patrick Mahomes right now and be like, "Hey, I'd love to give you free photos and video." No, he doesn't need it. He's in a different stature. He has videographers and photographers on the Chiefs, on wherever he's at, wherever he goes. He doesn't need free photos and videos because that's not the situation that he's in. But for me, I didn't have any work under my name. I didn't have paid jobs because I didn't have the work to show for to get paid jobs. So that's where I started, was that was my value pitch. I knew that my value pitch was only for a certain demographic of people. And that's just kind of like what you have to find, is make sure you have the value proposition for that certain avatar or demographic of clients and people, and then go hit it, and you'll cash out a lot, and it'll help you with your portfolio. And this is, I guess, kind of just speaking of photo video, but for any industry in business, or wherever, whatever you want to tailor it towards, it's the same thing. It's finding what your free value prop could be, and then finding the demographic of people who it most pertains to, and then that will be a heck of a lot more successful than just having that same value prop and just spewing it to the tons, because it's not going to hit as well. But then also, as I grew, kind of moved up the ranks a little bit in who I was talking to, I wasn't just offering them free work. I was almost like, not Dr. Phil, but like I just wanted to build the relationship. Like you have cool content on your page. I'm a videographer, love your content. Like, I see you went to school in Jacksonville. Do you know this guy I went to school with? Or, it's just striking up conversations, to where it's a natural conversation and a natural relationship being built. The last thing that I would want to do, and I actually did this for a while, and then I learned that it was totally, just not good for me, as a person slash business, was just like, hey, DMing you, see you're a big athlete. I take photos and videos, would love to, you know, see if we can strike a deal. It's like they get that all day, every day, especially the pros and the college kids. They get people just money hungry, wanting an opportunity to make a buck off of them. So obviously I have to get paid. I have a wife, newborn on the way. Like I do have to pay bills, but it's like you can at least try to make an effort to be somebody who they would want to be around. And obviously being a former college athlete, like I've been in locker rooms with a ton of guys. Like I know how these guys act. I know what they're listening to. I know what they're watching, all the stuff. So it's easy for me to kind of relate to them. And so that's why I really value the networking and the relationships more than just like cold pitches and that kind of traditional route.
There's an old phrase, well, still commonly used, that
Yeah.
time is money.
Hmm.
And that inherently means that every single minute that you spend doing something, it's worth something. Maybe not necessarily monetary, but when you provide free value, what you're saying is your time is worth technically $0. Now, for you, it's an investment that paid off.
Hmm.
But I think it's so hard for people, especially in the creative world, to think my value right now, the creativity that I'm coming up with, is worth $0. So, can you just dive into that a little bit more about why free work was so big for you early on, and why? I mean, that from your pitch that
Hmm.
you were making to these people, that is the calling card. The second that you see free in any type of marketing, it's like it turns on something in your brain that makes you think, well, number one, it probably isn't real. But
Hmm.
then once you start to look into it, wow, that's a really good deal.
Hmm.
So without that, though, you wouldn't have been in the spot, I assume, where
Hmm.
you are today. So could you just kind of break that down and explain to us why free value is so significant and how it pays off?
Yeah. I think it's a tricky term in kind of the way you just explained it. Like I I don't think of it as free. Like I do put a value and a number on it, obviously because they're not paying me for the free value at the time of exchange. But the relationship that you build, like Baker Mayfield, for example, we just did a pretty big brand shoot for him. I don't know, back in June before the season started, and then we do his foundational events. I talked with his agent for what was it, 11 months before we ever did a deal on anything. I did not make a dime off of Baker Mayfield or his agent in 11 months, and I reached out and built that relationship for 11 months. Obviously, all the the texts and the calls, yes, that was free of my time, but now looking at it, it's like you can kind of put a number to it in terms of like, okay, it took me this long to build this relationship, but this is what I got out of it from a monetary standpoint. Plus, obviously, I don't think of my relationships with people as monetary, but if you're looking at it on paper, this is the deals that we've done with Baker. It took me 11 months to get this client. He's now almost a recurring client every year slash quarterly. Um, and then me having case studies with Baker Mayfield on our agency's platform retains so many other athletes because we work with Baker Mayfield, one of the top dogs in the NFL right now. Other people trust us to take on their work. So, yes, you do have to like kind of fight the urge to not do it because it's free and like you might think you're wasting time doing these outreach calls and everything because you're not getting paid or you're not seeing the results, but like it it took me 11 months to get Baker Mayfield, but since we've gotten Baker Mayfield, a lot of other doors have opened. So it's an investment at the end of the day of your time. um, but hopefully that answered your question. What was also the follow up to that as well? Or
Well,
do you know what you're looking
I
for?
was just saying, like, it's difficult, right? As
Mhm.
somebody who believes that my time is valuable,
Mhm.
to have that long-term view. Now, you can say that, right?
Mhm.
Because you're looking at it in a rear view mirror right now. You're saying that was a worthy investment. But
Yeah.
for somebody who's at the beginning, who's just now sending those
Yeah.
messages, what would you give to them in terms of encouragement of saying,
Yes.
hey, free value actually isn't a bad route?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in that case, it is tough to see the road ahead in terms of is this relationship going to pan out? Do I have to wait 11 months for a deal to come up, or is this right around the corner? What is it? Um, and for me, like the those networking opportunities and those relationships that I was building, those were always like, at least for our pipeline, those were, um, I guess, icing on the cake. We weren't counting on those to pay the bills, to, keep our agency up and running, or else I would have been way less patient. I would have been scrambling. I probably would have been pestering Baker's agent like, "Hey, we need to get a deal done," because that was like that just wasn't our main source of income. It We want it to be our main source of income, so that's why we always had those relationships and those calls was to hopefully, we'd be talking to 10 or 12 agents, 15, 20 athletes. Hopefully over the course of that year we start locking them in. But behind the scenes, we had other gigs that were kind of funding our run, just making sure that we could stay afloat, pay bills, and all that good stuff. But in terms of at turn number one, like it's it I don't know, it was almost like gamified for me. I looked at it as like just fun. Like this was just a part of the business game, and like I had to learn it. And kind of, as Gary Vee says, like you have to eat crap. Like if you want to build anything of substance in the business world, like it's very rare. Or if you do get something handed to you, you get these opportunities handed to you, you don't know how to deal with the adversity when something comes up. So it's best if you do take the route of eating crap and kind of learning how to get through these things. And that was one of them, was learning the patience through those 11 months with Baker's agent. Because at the start of that 11-month journey, I didn't know how long it was going to take. It sometimes felt like it was never going to happen. And then finally it did. But I would also just say that like you have to genuinely want to build the relationship, and not every time you reach out to them expect something or expect the answer of like, hey, we got a gig for you. Because if you just go into the conversations, if I texted you once a month, and then in the back of my head, I wanted you to say something to me, but you never did, I would start to build resentment in that relationship. Therefore, I would stop the relationship. You actually have to want to like connect with these people and talk with them and build the relationship, or else it's not going to be long lasting in the term of networking and building relationships. So that's the one thing at the beginning of it, is just like making sure you know what you're getting into when you're starting on this journey of networking and outreaching. Because if you're in it for the wrong reasons, or you're building these relationships for the wrong reasons, like it's going to show, and you're going to burn those bridges really quick. And these agents and athletes talk, and reputation's everything. So that's kind of where I would go at it from a road zero type of ground.
Yeah, that's good. You just referenced it right there. You have your own creative agency. Can you kind of explain what the formation of it's Creative Juice, correct? Creative Juice.
Yes.
How was that how was that formed?
Yeah.
What went into the process of starting that, and then why is that the name?
Yeah. So Creative Juice Agency, I founded it personally, by myself in January of 24. And before that, I worked in the NFL, the MLB, and the NHL, all at separate times. And at one point, I had all three of them at once. But that was the previous 3 years, 2021 through 2024. And ultimately, Creative Juice kind of stuck with me because I don't say this often, but in 2023, I wanted to start a like hydration drink company, and Creative Juice was the name of it. Obviously, just like I was trying to be an influencer in the film world, and so I thought like I could just kind of make the name tie a little bit between creative and like juice, whatever. Had no idea what I was doing, but it was just fun, and just fun to dream about. So had the name in my phone for a while, and then I don't know if I even looked at other names. I think I might have tried to do Blumberg Film something, but like I didn't want my name to be in it. I wanted this agency to like be more than just me. I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I knew it was gonna be more than just me. And so Creative Juice ultimately stuck. I have a friend here at church. She started drafting some logos, and it this juice box, that is the primary logo, it wasn't even one of her favorites. So she sent me a photo on iMessage of her sketchbook, and she just started sketching a ton of ideas that kind of related to Creative Juice, in the film industry. And she sends me a photo of what's focused on, I would say like this group of like 10 images. And over here in the little corner is the juice box. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but we got to go to that. I was like, that is so sick. And ultimately the thought process behind the name and keeping it Creative Juice, but then also kind of going into the vintage color palette and the fun logo was because this industry, at least in the sports commercial film world, is way too serious. Everything has a sharp edge to it. It's got some super serious, sick name. Like, I just wanted to completely come in with a different thought process, something that stood out a little more. And ultimately, like, it's just a name. Like, obviously, your name builds reputation and, like, it can mean something, but, like, the actual name itself, who cares? Like, it's the work that shows up behind the name. You can make any name look good and you can make any name look bad. So Creative Juice for me was just like something that kind of kept it lighthearted, fun, and what it is today. It's like what I love it. And then kind of fast forward, obviously, what we're in October of 25. I brought in a creative partner, business partner, in July of 2024. Gosh, I'm getting all my dates mixed up. July of 2024, I brought in Kyle. He is my business partner, as equity in the company. He is way more of the business analytical guy. Still a crazy good filmmaker. And then I'm more so of, obviously, run and gun videographer, sports kind of minded person. And more of the networking, outreach kind of guy. I kind of the liaison of clients, if you will, where I still film, but like on set, I'm more so trying to maintain relationships, making sure talent's happy, clients are happy, just kind of mingling that role. So, and then we're actually in the process of we're sending over some documents today. I haven't announced this on any of my other pages, but it's not official yet. But we have somebody in the trial phase to be our third business partner, and hopefully it'll lock in January 1st of 25. They will also be getting equity in the company, and that's more so just because obviously I have a newborn coming on the way in April, and I've just traveled way too much. I've had my fun, but like 80% of our workload is travel based, and at least for my priorities and my lifestyle, what I want to be obviously comfortable in making money to take care of my family, but I've just believed that being home with my wife and my newborn is way more important than anything in the world. And so if I can just be there for them, and then kind of step aside, letting this new business partner kind of take a hold of the videography piece, I'll still handle, the big clients and the big shoots. Obviously, if we ever need to fill in for a videographer, I'll definitely be there, but it will be a lesser role for me in the video aspect of things, and more so me really just taking a hold of the outreach, the networking, the business proposals, the client outreach. Like, that whole thing is going to 10x when that shift kind of happens. So that's where we started. That's how it started, and that's kind of like where we're at right now.
That's really special. So in entrepreneurship class, they always teach you to find a problem, identify a problem, and then find a solution for it. And I think you referenced it there for just a half a second, but from somebody who's coming from a business perspective, not necessarily a videography perspective, what issue are you addressing in your business? How have you guys kind of found a fix for that? And then you've mentioned where you see this going, but even more long term, what does this business look like over the span of, 10, 15 years?
Yeah. So right now we're still trying to get into the space of what problem we think we can solve. It's just such a big, it's not really a big problem. It's just the clientele that have these problems are very exclusive. And so it's very hard to get in the room with them. And so that's kind of like why we're doing this groundwork right now. Is the work that you see us doing today is not what we want to be doing in the next 10 years. But it's something that builds our case. We get to work with reputable names, and it ultimately gets us suited up to almost learn like the ins and outs of what the problems that we think they have. We're still working with these athletes, so we're kind of like behind the scenes trying to figure out like, oh, like this is actually a problem, or oh, this is different than what we thought, so that when we're ready to be in front of these, ideal dream clients and pitch that problem solving idea, we're ready. We have all of the information that we need. We've worked behind the scenes with, these huge professional athletes. We're ready to go. So as of right now, the problem is just short form content. In our eyes, short form content, I'm trying to make sure I word this correctly so I don't get in trouble, but we're trying to prioritize long form content because we think long form content is king. And I think everybody's about tired of these ADHD edits on TikTok and Instagram. I truly believe that that's going to phase out. I still think that short form content is here to stay for the long run. Like it's going to be here for a very long time. I just think in what capacity that everything's being edited in these styles are going to go out the window. And so we are trying to kind of, I don't even know how to say it, really bridge the gap for athletes and brands to kind of live cohesively in terms of content wise. So, for instance, one of these, we have a pickleball player. He's the number one pickleball player in the world. His name's Ben Johns. And for him, we have this whole content package for him that builds his personal brand, but it's sponsored by his paddle company. So everybody wins. We get paid. Ben Johns gets to elevate his personal brand. We've already, I don't think we've doubled his social following, but we're pretty close. He gets tremendous value out of it while he doesn't have to pay anything out of pocket because the paddle brand is paying for the whole package that Ben gets to use. And in return, the paddle company, obviously, Ben being a massive star in that game, in that sport, he's using their paddle the whole time. So if his numbers go up, double the people are going to see the paddle. So it's a win for everybody. We get paid. The paddle company gets exposure through Ben. Ben gets to grow his social media, whatever he wants to do for free because it's paid by the paddle company. So that's just like an example of what we want to do with other athletes. We want to make sure that the athlete is getting quality content for their personal brand. Because sometimes you'll go on an athlete's page and you'll see the most random ads that are just thrown up on the feed. Like they just don't even make sense. Their social, what's it called? Their in-feed post on their Instagram just looks not even like it's the same thing. Like it's just random ad after ad and weird posts, all this stuff. We're trying to make it to where like it's beneficial for a partnering company, the athlete, for us. And that's just one small like thing that we're trying to do in the current. But yeah, we really want to be in the long form game. We want to be doing like long form documentaries. We want to be doing just that style. My business partner and I have no interest in being in the short form world and trying to make our money off of it, even though there's way more money in short form than long form right now. It's just not something that we desire to do or have interest in. But we do it in the current to pay bills and build relationships as well, because a lot of these athletes do need short form. So we do take on the short form right now to just build a relationship, build a rapport with the athletes in hopes that, we have so much of this content that we can start producing long form documentaries on these athletes and whatever else. So it's a big puzzle, honestly. I probably just worded it off like it was a big puzzle. And I could have just said it was a big puzzle, but it's this big puzzle that we're still trying to figure out how to get to that finishing piece. There's so many different routes that we're trying because we've only been an agency for 18 months or maybe a little over, but we're doing pretty well. It hasn't been a straight A to B, but it's been super fun trying to figure out if the problem we think is actually the problem, if we can solve it once we get to the point of pitching it in this grand ordeal that we envision.
See, for me, that's really encouraging because one of my theories is similar to what you said about us and the generation of college students and around that area of that demographic is eventually going to get fed up with short form, low quality content. Now, if if somebody doesn't know anything about your work is high quality. When you are going through your feed, it will catch your eye because of the quality of the video and the storytelling and the creativity of what you're trying to show. And my hope and my prayer is that long term, there is going to be more people are going to get fed up of the short form, low quality content. And so the only thing that remains king on short form is high quality content, which will force creators to make things that are high quality. Now, on the long form side, I think that will force more people back to the long form side because they'll say, okay, if you make a video on YouTube that's more than 60 seconds long,
Mm-hmm.
you have to put effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no just filming yourself talking with no text, with no editing. I mean, that's just not a thing anymore. So the quality of long form on YouTube and the other platforms similar is there. People are just not exploring it to the extent that they are short form. And so that's kind of my theory, and that's one of the big reasons I started this show. Because I mean, why would you start a podcast? Nobody listens to podcasts anymore. Well, if they really want to learn, if they really want high quality content, why wouldn't they go and listen to an hour episode about something that they're passionate about? So that's a long intro, but it's encouraging for me to hear you say that. So my curiosity is, based on what I just said, what do you agree with, and what do you disagree with,
Yeah.
and what does your agency kind of line up with that mentality?
Yeah. In terms of that long form content, I do agree with you on the short form side of things. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what content is going to be king once the ADD, ADHD stuff is out of there. I think it's going to take a heavy shift. I've heard it said before, it's like a pendulum swing. It's way over here right now. It's super ADHD, short attention span, crazy edits, and then it's going to start. I think it's starting to swing back. I just don't know where. I don't know what this looks like over here. I don't know what the opposite end looks like, and so that's just a complete guessing game because who knows? Like, history repeats itself. It might be that it swings back all the way to just people pulling up their phones and making a selfie video and having 60-second talks or whatever. But in terms of like long form, um, I think I think that people give up too prematurely on YouTube because the pendulum hasn't swung yet. They're probably making the right content and probably doing all the right things. It's just the audience isn't there yet. It's not ready for it yet. And so what we kind of do, because we have a couple of clients that we create YouTube content for. And obviously it helps because these big athletes already kind of have a big following. But we notice when videos kind of uptick rather than their average videos. And so we're always going to be high quality, whether it's short form, long form, we will have high quality so that we have that going for us. Now, things like TikTok, I I think TikTok could care less on high quality. I even catch myself scrolling. I could care less. Obviously, I love the high quality sports shots, but like I just watched a 3 minute Jimmy Fallon video of him talking about something, selfie video on his phone. So TikTok is an anomaly. We don't really dabble in TikTok too much as we probably should, but I've just found way more success personally in Instagram and YouTube. So that's what we do for our clients. So anyways, going back to the long form ideation, everything's high quality, short form or long form. Doesn't matter what the concept is, doesn't matter where it is, who it is. It is going to be filmed on professional cameras by professionals in hopes that that high quality means something to somebody. I personally think that it's easier to watch something if it is high quality. Obviously, that's just me. That's just my taste. But I also feel like that's what other people in the sports world are kind of looking for on YouTube. It may differ demographic to demographic. It may differ from creator to creator. But in the sports world, I have found that higher quality YouTube videos do better. And so we're always going to stay high quality. It's just a matter of, I think it's swinging from Mr. Beast, and I think it's going to go over to, I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Sulek. but he's a massive gym bro in that industry, and he literally props his phone up on a tripod and talks to it for 2 hours, and he has like 1 million subscribers. It's ridiculous. I can't watch a full one of his videos because my short form, my attention span is fried, so I can't watch one of his videos. But it might swing all the way back over there, and so that's just something that me and my team have to be conscious of when we're making these videos. Is like, do we try to skip and maybe edit it to where we think the audience is going to be in a couple months, or do we stay with the trends and just kind of follow along? It's tough to. It's all a guessing game on what the human brain is going to adapt to. No one knows when or what the other side of the pendulum is going to do in, could be 2 months, could be 2 years. So for us on the long form thing, it's just tough. It's a guessing game right now.
Well, I mean, the debate right now, and unfortunately, I think it's on the other side, is it's quality versus quantity,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, on TikTok, you are rewarded
Yeah,
for the amount of times that you post. It
100%.
doesn't matter if it's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I asked that question, because the difficult decision that has to be made is between the quality of a video versus, I mean, you could post 25 Max Clark videos
Yeah,
that are all really cool and TikTok will reward you.
yeah,
Or you could spend a really, really long time on a
yeah,
very high quality edit, and TikTok probably won't reward you as much, but those other platforms you talked about, like Instagram and YouTube, I think the dividends are definitely there. And that's why I think it's shifting, like you said, back to that middle or even farther out,
yeah.
because those platforms have already said yes. TikTok hasn't said yes yet because
Mm-hmm.
they don't do long form. I mean, that's not, I mean, mostly they don't do
Yes.
long form. So that's why I was curious about it. So I really do appreciate that perspective. And to see how an agency who's active on social media, that's
Mm-hmm.
having success on social media, is approaching it,
Yeah,
because it's so simple from a small creator or a small company feel to look at our feeds and say, it's not working. Which way do I go? And
yeah,
it's difficult. Like you said, it's super difficult to decide. But for that person right now, for that filmmaker who's either building their personal brand or an agency of some
mm-hmm.
type, let's say you're giving a TED talk right now. You got a
Yeah,
hundred filmmakers right now of
yeah.
sports, media, all these different things. What are the tips that you're going to give them? What are the different things that you wish you would have known when you were in their shoes?
Yeah, I would say, um, gosh, it's kind of controversial on this one because a lot of people say, and it's funny because a lot of people like to say this from the top seat. A lot of people like to say it doesn't matter what camera equipment you have, you create what you can with what you have. I think that's BS. I think that the creative industry, and I hate that it is this way because I was at the bottom. I think it's a pay to play. I think that it is a pay to play um, to a certain extent. I think that um, I do not think that you can create. I'm gonna get so I'm gonna get so roasted for this. I don't think that you can create amazing high quality content with stuff that doesn't shoot high quality content. I don't see how you can match those up. But I've also seen on the other side of the pendulum, I have seen people with tens of thousands of dollars worth of camera gear, and they look like they've never held a camera in their life. So it's both ways. It's both extremes. But that's the one thing that I would say is or that's one of the main points I would say is you do have to pay to play to get on the field. You do, but you do not have to spend an arm and a leg to hang with the big boys and girls. Like there's a balance. I do think that there's a starter camera. I love the Sony brand. I think that something like I always buy my camera equipment used. I've never bought a single piece of camera equipment new. Um, I don't know why, but I'm also not rolling in the dough. So I bought all my stuff secondhand, and it's been pretty good. But I would say that try to get in the um, $800 range for a beginner camera. And then, I would top out around like 5K. Like, I don't think to hang with the people on social media, I don't think you need a $10,000 new red camera or whatever. So that's one of my points. I think that you can create some really cool stuff and you can take some really good photos with the camera that you do have, but there is a point where it is a pay to play. So that's one of my points. Another one is networking. I mean, I'll die on that hill. I would say 80% of why Creative Juice is up and running is because of networking, and the relationships that we've built is all from networking. And then even if it's not that direct relationship, it's because of another relationship that's opened a door to referring me to somebody else. It's networking. 80% of our revenue comes from networking. And then, yeah, networking, and then the pay to play. You got to make some investments. Even if you're going to be eating ramen noodles for a couple of months, you got to be making some investments into yourself and into your portfolio. And then YouTube University. I don't think people look at it enough. That is where I learned everything, mostly everything, in terms of camera equipment, camera settings, how to talk to people. I mean, YouTube University is literally a college for free, and nobody talks about it enough. Like, obviously, there's a ton of people who talk about it, but it should be talked about way more. Like, the opportunities that you can get just from watching YouTube videos and the confidence you can get in your skill set, learning new skill sets. I didn't know how to create a graphic. I didn't know how to take a cool photo. Everything I learned is from YouTube, at least the basics on how to do it. And then obviously getting in reps, not being afraid to do free work. Those would be my four pillars for sure. Free work, YouTube University, pay to play, and networking. Those are my four pillars.
Well, you just shook somebody's world up, right? You said it would be controversial, but
Yeah.
you're being honest, which I think
Yeah.
is something that most people won't do in this day and age, and say, no, you can't just film everything on your phone.
Yeah.
I mean, people say that, but you should use your phone as a creative outlet, but I
Mhm.
assume, but not as your, end all, because that's not how you develop and that's not how you get better in this
Mhm.
industry. So for that person that might feel a little discouraged right now, might be looking at their budget saying, I don't have the money to go buy a camera.
Yeah.
I can't provide free work without a camera, so I can't make money. I mean, how do I get over the hump?
Yeah.
Is there something that you can say to them as an encouragement of saying, don't be discouraged by what I say, just understand here's the rules?
Yes. So, and I want to preface this too. That's for the majority of the creative field. I see a couple of YouTubers and Instagram creators who do make a living filming on only their iPhone. And obviously, I mean, you look at the new iPhone. I don't have the 17, whatever, but like they have incredible cameras. So if you do have that, then definitely go for it and see what you can max out with that thing. But it's going to be very hard for you to get a gig and you walk up to the set and all you have is your iPhone. They will probably tell you to turn around. Like it's just it's tough. And so what I want to say about getting to that starting point, maybe the $800 mark, obviously that is very tough to look at that number, especially when you have no money when you're just starting out in the creative field. It's a very daunting number, and obviously 800 it's up or down from there. But whatever camera you do have, if you do have to get I don't even know what they're going for, but go to Best Buy and get a Canon, whatever for a starter kit for 250, whatever you can do, whatever you can get. There's gonna be somebody who's going to pay you for your services. So I also just want to say I've been saying this for a very long time. Is I got to the MLB when I was 20 years old in terms of filming and photography. I was, I think I was the youngest person at the time to ever be brought on to MLB. Everybody's timeline is different. You should not compare your timeline to somebody else's. You don't know what that person has gone through to be at where they're at that time in their life. A lot of people would not choose to go through what I went through to get to the MLB at 20 years old. And same thing goes for other people. There's other people who I looked up to. I could not do what they did to get to where they're at. And so I just want to encourage people to be like, it might take you a year to get the $800 saved up, or it might take you till next week. You might land a super crazy gig and you get to walk into Best Buy with $1,000 and go buy you a new camera. Everybody's timeline is different, and so you shouldn't be basing it off of mine or these other creators that you see on Instagram. It's just not how it works. It's just not reality. But to get that money is there is somebody out there, and there's a mom and pop shop down the street from you. There is a high school athlete. There is a group of moms who love their t-ball kids and they want photos of them. There are a ton of opportunities. They're not glamorous opportunities, but they're opportunities to get you money to get that starter camera. It's not like you have to land a pro athlete right out the gate to get $800. It's like, no, you can spend 2 months going to the t-ball rec league every weekend and getting, $20 a mom, $20 a parent, stuff like that. You got to hustle. So it's, a lot of us had to hustle. But now, like, I feel like there's an image being portrayed right now on social media where people are just kind of left lost on how to actually hustle. I feel like people preach hustle, hustle, and grind and edit until 2 a.m. But it's like, how do you get those jobs? How do you make how do you make the $10 a person? It's like, you have to go find opportunities to hustle. So obviously in the sports world, like I said, go find the t-ball moms, go find the gym bro who wants a cool video for $10. Like, you got to make it happen. If you want it, you'll make it happen.
With all that being said, with all the different hustles they have to come up with, all the different routes that you can take, with everything that you kind of compile together, how do you personally define success?
Oh, I love this. Did you? No, you didn't. That's crazy that you just asked me that, because I put out a Google form like 2 weeks ago that asked that. I love that. I think success is subjective. Um, Success can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and it does mean a lot of different things um, for other individuals. But for me personally, um, success is having a good relationship with my wife, the Lord, and just keeping those two first, and everything else will fall into place for me. Um, Obviously, there's some things that I could look at in terms of success in the film world or whatever, but those are all like not as important. My success is, am I aligned with God and my wife? And everything else will take care of itself. If I'm not meant to do film in the next 5 years, I'll gladly step aside for something else. If that means that I can be in line with, my faith and my wife, that's all. That's all that matters. Obviously, um, however I make the money to support the family, obviously not illegal, but like, whether if it's a different job route or whatever, like, fine. I want to take care of my family. I want to provide for my family. But that's success for me, is making sure that my priorities are aligned and making sure I know where everything falls on the totem pole.
And then finally, as you look at the current like college student
Mm,
demographic, high school, this age range of people who are trying to figure out what they want to do, what they want to do with their lives, what they want to do with their careers, all
mm,
these different things, all these different decisions that they're trying to make.
mhm,
My question for you, because your route was different than, somebody that's in college right now pursuing an MBA, right? There's different routes. Everybody gets to their spot by a different route.
yeah.
But as you look at this generation, what is your one challenge to us? To What is one thing that you would say to us, that you would challenge us to do as we pull all of these questions together, as we're handling all the things going on in the world? What is that one thing that you would say?
Ooh, gosh. I feel like my one challenge would be, and this is for the college demographic,
Yes, sir.
I would say my one challenge would be to hustle like you don't have a degree. So, what I mean by that is like, and you are doing it. You are hustling and you are DMing, outreaching, like you are a part of what I'm about to say. But I just, and obviously I didn't finish college, so I don't know if maybe I would have at some point in my college journey. So this is just me speaking with little to no college experience. So I apologize if I'm about to like just say something that does not even like realistically mean anything. But from somebody who's outside of the college world, I would say that the college students need to hustle like they're not going to come out with a college degree. Like they don't have anything to fall back on. I feel like they really need to feel like their backs against the wall. They need to hustle. They need to create opportunities for themselves to go get what they want and not rely on the piece of paper that they're going to walk out with to get them what they want. Because you probably will with the degree that you work hard for, like you probably will get a lot of opportunities opened up for you. And some great things are going to happen because you did work so hard in the 4+ or whatever years you did in school for anybody. But I think there's a beauty of eating crap and finding your way out of it and making an opportunity happen that wasn't given to you. Obviously, just because you get a job because you had a piece of paper, that doesn't mean you had that job handed to you. You had to work those 4 years, crush the classes, whatever. But I just feel like what you're doing, like you obviously you've had some great names on the show, and you're gonna have some great names in the future, and that's because I mean, you have a freaking book right there with notes from this interview and questions that you came with. I've probably been on, I don't know, 6 or 7 podcasts. I've had somebody maybe pull out a shared notes app, but like no one's ever come this prepared and done their research. So it's like you're young, you're hungry, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to creating opportunities for yourself and going to get what you want. And so I just feel like that's what I would challenge people, and mainly because I've seen, creatives in the college world be so entitled and be so lackadaisical when it comes to opportunities and not taking them or not grinding. And, you know, I just think that I don't think you need to base your whole career off of the hustle mentality. I think that's a little bit too much. The whole Alex Hormozy, Andrew Tate, I think that's a little too extreme. But I do think you need to get a taste of it. I think you need to experience it at least for one phase of your life, just to, so you go through that time of crap so you can go through anything. And I think that would be my challenge, is just going through a little phase of the hustle and grind, and in my case, 3 a.m. edits and long drives, whatever it was. That's something that I'd like to see.
Hmm. You just challenged this generation. What's the encouragement that you would give? What's the thing that I know you already talked about what gets you up in the morning, what keeps you going, but what's something specific that was said to you or something that you read that just forces you to keep going?
I think a lot of that for me is my faith. So obviously, like I have that kind of North Star to go off of, and I have the book of the Bible to kind of give me those words of encouragements and everything like that. But for somebody who's maybe not in their faith or just in a different season of life, whatever it may be, I just feel like, gosh, I feel like when you come out of that phase of grind or the trials and tribulations, when you make it out of on the other side of it, it's the best feeling in the world. I'm gonna kind of reference back to when my dad passed away, 2019. I had the opportunity to play the victim card, or I had the opportunity to turn that situation into good. And obviously, I made an Instagram post about this the other day. I wouldn't change anything that's happened in my life. I wouldn't bring my dad back from the dead. I wouldn't mess with any of that. Because I don't know. I had to grow up a lot quicker than a lot of other people. And I don't know if I would have been in the same position that I am today if those events wouldn't have happened. And so I really feel like if you just don't play the victim card. And because a lot of people are going through a lot of other trials and tribulations. A lot of people have it worse than me. And then obviously other people look at different tragic events as like different levels of trauma. Some people might think losing their dad isn't that bad because they're not close with them, whatever. But everybody's got some level of, tough circumstance that they're working through, whether it's, mental, anxiety, so many levels to this. And so if you can make it out of that and get rid of the victim card, throw it out the window, and just come out on the other side of it, and then realize that you just left that in the dust and, you conquered it, that gives you a whole nother level of just confidence. And that can go into whatever business endeavor you want, that can go into whatever industry you're wanting to go into, or anything in life that can be applied to. And so that's my encouragement, is just like, just know that whatever trial or tribulation you're facing right now, or whatever circumstance you're in, like that there's a reason it's called a phase. It's not forever. It's not the rest of your life. You're not going to live in that mindset for the rest of your life. On the other side of that is hope, and you need to be watering. You're going to be there for the rest of your life. So you need to water the grass where you're at, and not just hope that it's greener on the other side. You need to just be taking care of yourself and know that it's just a phase. It's not going to be there forever. So that would be like my encouragement.
Thank you for listening to the Long Answer podcast. I hope you learned something today, but most importantly, I hope you go and apply it to your life. If you haven't already, go check out our show on our socials. We'd love to connect with you. Thanks for listening. My name is Josiah Winnell. Go be great.